And astonishing goal. That's the way to do it. Herrera. Ibrahimovic! With 3.5 minutes to play. Now Di Maria wants it back, gets it back. Fantastic.
That's the luck of the bounce off Gaston Ramirez. Top try! What a day this is turning out to be for Manchester United.
Mason Greenwood hits the spot.
In he goes towards Muriel. What a save, David De Gea. Brilliant save.
Dan James. Dream debut. Daniel James.
Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we're going to be discussing United's last two games, both of which happening in the Europa League round of 16 and quarterfinals respectively, as well as looking at the general transfer window and the signings or lack of in United's situation, before looking ahead to United's semi-final against Sevilla in the Europa League. With me today, I welcome back both Suraj and Prashanth. Welcome back, guys. And in the warm conditions today, we'll discuss the sort of almost sluggish matches in the last two games in the Europa League, and we'll start with that LASK game. LASK game even against a side that knew that pretty much the tie was over after the 5-0 win before lockdown in Austria. And they travelled to Old Trafford, first time in their history, looking to cause a few problems, maybe get a bit of pride back, and they certainly played very well. The 3-4-3 formation they had sort of worked quite perfectly at times, as United's first half was sluggish to say the least, and really LASK had the better chances until the second half came along, and you thought, well, United will act sharper, they'll get on the ball more, but 10 minutes into the game, a set piece was flicked out by Fosu Mensah, and Weisinger, the centre-back, with a first-time finish, rocketed into the top corner. Honestly, I was shocked that he scored. It was probably his best goal he'll ever score. Brilliant goal, though, credit where credit's due. And it looked like LASK were going to get a snatch and grab, you might have thought, maybe with the way United were playing. But almost immediately, Mata's quality shone through in Lingard's tenacity to and intelligence to run onto the ball. And a first-time pass from Mata found Lingard one-on-one with the goalkeeper and finished quite nicely past him at his near post, scoring his second goal in as many games. And then United huffed and puffed throughout the game, didn't really create too many chances. Thought Mata was better in the second half. I thought the substitutions that came on, Pogba and Martial especially, were lively and exciting. Pereira, not really. Chong did a decent job, and Mengi, obviously the last 10 minutes was a good debut for him. But it was actually Martial who got the winner in the end in the 88th minute. Again, Mata crucial in the build-up as brilliant link-up play led to Martial through on goal, and there's only going to be one result, even though it was a bit of a poor finish, but poor goalkeeping, but it went in the net anyway. And Martial, now our top goal scorer with 23 goals, brought a victory where it almost looked like there wasn't going to be one late on in the in the round of 16. So, firstly, Suraj, just overall throughout the game, what were you thinking? Did you think the fact is that we made so many changes and it was a chance to show players to be pushing into the first team squad? So who impressed you and who didn't?
Well, all in all, it was a nothing game, and it was really pointless. Even when LASK scored a goal, I barely flinched. I thought, okay, fine, good for them. But, well, nothing more. I was, in fact, looking forward to Mengi and Lair's performances, but Lair didn't even make the bench, and Mengi came on in the last 10 minutes, if I'm not wrong. The only thing I could note from that game is our second team's quite poor, and as soon as you drop our main guys, we start struggling. We don't look like a team anymore. So that's probably something to note. But again, even for our second team's very abject performance, we weren't going to bottle that 5-0 lead. So So all in all, like it was just a nothing game, and yeah, we move on from there.
All right, of course. I think just before we do, I was going to say, but decisions were. I mean, some people criticised the decision or that we brought Pogba on, brought Martial on. Of course, they were important in sealing the win. Prashant, do you think it was a bad decision to bring Pogba on? Obviously, it was potentially, because as Suraj said, it was a nothing game. And so if he'd have got injured, that would have been a massive loss. Do you think it was worth the risk?
To be honest, yes, it was worth the risk because, there are players like Pogba, Fred, Bruno. These guys are whole rhythm players. I wouldn't want them off completely off a game for like, let's say 90 minutes or something. I think even in the last podcast, we discussed that, right? So for 60, 65 minutes, these guys, have a rest is good. But before the Copenhagen game, I was very confident that Ole would bring them in. But one important point which I want to highlight to most of the United fans is understand that Diego Dalot's career at United is as good as over. I mean, he can't, I agree with most of the part which Suraj said. The second team, let's say the reserve bench or whatever you want to call it, is just not good enough. We don't have depth, so on and so forth. But Diego Dalot's career is done at United. And yes, Pogba should have been brought on a little bit earlier because, even in the Leicester game, he kind of did something which we have not seen Pogba do, which is to support the midfield. We've always seen a Pogba who's more of a free-spirited footballer. You let him kind of roam in the football pitch and he's more than happy. Now we see a different Pogba. It's a more of responsible kind of a Paul Pogba. And I like that, somewhere down the line, we don't have a proper Nemanja Matic replacement, and Paul Pogba is slowly and steadily anchoring the midfield. When I use the word anchor, not exactly playing a Matic kind of a role, but acts with more responsibility, because we know that Bruno is our creative spark, and he lets Bruno be on his own, and Pogba does the other job. So I was pretty happy that Pogba was brought on, and so was Martial, because even in post-match conference, Ole said that Martial literally begged him for a chance. That's something which we have not heard of from Martial ever, right? We've always blamed him that he's inconsistent, a very talented guy, but can't keep his consistency. Now he's hungry to score more goals, and I think it's a good sign. Yes, of course, there was a lot of risk for them to bring on, but I'm totally okay to get these guys for a good 20-25 minutes, even if it was a game with no meaning, because they need rhythm. And when we saw against Copenhagen, in spite of playing close to our best 11, the game was quite cagey again.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I think that is important. I think it is also important that like you said, the players that come on should have like a little bit of almost a warm up, get test the waters, because obviously then it would have been, I think it would have been about a week and a half after playing against Leicester. And sometimes you just need that match sharpness. You don't need all that rest. You do just need to maybe just keep playing a little bit, but we'll have to and obviously it did sort of maybe affect some of the play against Copenhagen, which we'll discuss now. Of course, United did name a much stronger side. I think while Romero, Bailly, Maguire, Williams and I believe Fred were the only survivors against LASK, the rest of the team was swapped in, and it was a much stronger side that played against the Danish champions. Of course, it was always going to be a difficult game because Copenhagen were obviously knew that it was going to be one game. There's no second tie. There's no last chance saloon. It's really this game or nothing. And they went for the game and they played well, actually, in the first 22 minutes. I think they were the better side. Bailly had to do a lot of brilliant defending, as did Maguire and Williams from different parts of the field, be it from a corner, from mistakes and etc. But defending was overall good. The ball playing actual ability was pretty sloppy and sluggish, and the players didn't quite look up to it. But in the second half, second part of the first half even, it was much more energetic, much livelier, and United actually started to click a little bit more. But we had to wait a long time for that first goal. Didn't even go past, didn't even get to the second half with a goal. Of course, that's when the goalkeeper decided, what I'm going to do? I'm just going to turn up now and just see what happens. And he became prime Buffon with a record 13 saves in the Europa League. No goalkeeper has made more in the Europa League history than Johnson that day. And United had to settle for a extra time and potentially penalties. Obviously brought on a few players throughout the game, took off Fred for Matic, brought on Lindelof for Bailly, brought on Mata for Greenwood, who obviously did have a goal ruled out for offside rightfully in the end. It did look a bit contentious when I first looked at it, but then the angle they actually used was much more obvious and less contentious there. And obviously United did hit the post actually 3 times in the first 90 and another time in the first part of extra time when a brilliant save to deny, I think it was Mata, fell to Lindelof, who slipped when he shot and hit the post. But United in the end managed to get a penalty 5 minutes into extra time. A completely correct call. 21 penalties for the season for Manchester United. And who else to score but Bruno Fernandes? And he tucked it away as he scored his 11th goal for Manchester United in 21 games, if I'm not mistaken. Let's talk about the first 90 minutes. Prashanth, it was pretty dire, wasn't it? Why do you think that happened?
When you mentioned all the events which happened in the match, one particular event I think United fans were pretty vocal about was Mason Greenwood's finish. It was one of those finishes which we have not seen for quite some time. And he was pretty unlucky that it was judged offside, but what a finish it was. Such a tight angle, and he was just a yard outside, but good call, it was ruled offside. Now, having said that, couple of things which I want to highlight is that a 2-week break did not help either Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford. Somewhere down the line, I feel that, like I said in the first part of the podcast itself, that they are rhythm players. The more you play them, the more they grow into the game. Fernandes did grow into the game, but somewhere it is not the usual Bruno Fernandes what we see, because probably that's the standard he set for himself. And Copenhagen were very smart. They understood that it was an important game for United, and Guillermo Varela, I think, kind of someone told him that you are today Cafu, and Johansson was more of a team. Those two guys put on a shift, which I think we have not seen an individual performance as brilliant as Johansson for quite some time. Why it happened with United, there are a couple of reasons. One is probably because we don't have enough bench strength. Yes, we did play close to our best 11. Fred is not the answer to Nemanja Matic at that position. He's pretty sloppy. He's extremely sloppy. He had 1 or 2 good balls to pass, but we need Matic. Matic is that calmness in that midfield, which allows both Pogba and Bruno to, kind of have the advantage what they have. Harry Maguire, for me, had a very average game, is what I feel. Somewhere down the line, I feel that, he was not interested to play at all. When I say when he was not interested to play at all, Eric Bailly on one side was close to giving away a penalty, and then he redeemed himself. But then Harry Maguire was just like, okay, fine, it's one of those games, I'll play and I'll move on, kind of a thing. I don't like that kind of performance, where your main centre-back is not interested to play. You can say to Copenhagen not being attacking, probably a better team would have made us punish quite early. Mm-hmm. But overall, it was a very cagey game, and I wouldn't blame fatigue because you've got a 2 weeks good rest. But I would surely blame on the fact that most of the United players didn't look like they were in great shape for the match. That's probably because the last game was a boredom for fans as well as those players who sat out and watched. So they thought that it was one of those games like Copenhagen. But if it was a better team, they would have made us pay very early in the game.
Well, yeah, of course, and we're going to be playing a better team in the semi-finals. Sevilla, of course, 5-time winners, and know how to win against United too. We won't go into that just yet. We'll be putting that off till later. But Suraj, do you agree with that statement? Do you think that the players just sort of moseyed around because they expected the win, or do you think it was something else?
Yeah, I've got to agree with what Prashant said. Even I did notice that Maguire did seem a little disinterested, and so when the games are so cagey, what you expect is your captain to step up and tell everyone what to do and get the job done. That's what captains are supposed to do, right? They lead on the pitch and managers lead off the pitch. And especially apart from those a couple of chances that Copenhagen had, they barely attacked us. The entire game was in their half. So Maguire, he's known that he can carry the ball forward and he can distribute, but he didn't do that. In fact, we waited for Fred to drop deeper and then play it to him, and then he transitioned, and he was doing that so badly he wasn't able to transition it into midfield. So yeah, those couple of things were a little off, but all in all, like Prashant said, we just wanted to get it over with. It was one of those games, and I was quite bugged about the fact that we had to play an extra 30 minutes when we could have used some rest. And actually, not one of my proudest moments, but yesterday I was praying for the Sevilla game to go into extra time as well, so that even they get those extra 30 minutes. So all in all, everyone just had a subpar game, but got the job done. So yeah, I probably wouldn't look into it too much, because again, like Prashant mentioned, if we were playing a much tougher opposition, like say a dynamic side like Sevilla, then we'd definitely be up for it, no doubt.
Just to add on to what he said, we got the job done, but it wasn't a very professional performance. It was more like we had better individual players who could have done it, and it wasn't for those individual players to shine either. So on one hand, it was all Johansson show, and on the other hand, it was all Anthony Martial show to a certain extent. And then imagine when you have a player like Juan Mata who has not featured in for quite some time, you have to depend on him to come in and change the game. And all he took was 3 minutes, 4 minutes to just change the phase of the game. I mean, that's not a very proud moment for any team. Not that Juan Mata is a very bad player or whatever. It's just that, when we are saying that United have moved on, we are trying to rebuild. But these kind of games are what worries me the most. When you can't just blow off teams, no disrespect to Copenhagen or their fans, but I mean, like the kind of pace what we have, or whatever the kind of style what we play, we should be blowing away these teams. I mean, I understand 13 saves, etc., but like 13 shots he is able to stop. You could have just nailed it once for all, and the game was said to be done. So it was not a very professional performance, and I don't think United should be very proud of getting the job done in that kind of a manner.
Yeah, obviously it was quite cagey, and I think players were sloppy. There were obviously a few chances missed, and obviously not taken at times. One of the players that was sort of really quite heavily criticised, and I think it's fair. Marcus Rashford really wasn't on the money today, that day even. I mean, obviously his passing has got a lot better. I think his actual ball distribution has improved since his injury, but he doesn't look quite fit at the moment. He doesn't quite look. Well, he's not being as dynamic as we saw from that period from October till January, when he got 19 goals in the league and 19 goals in all competitions even, and he's only scored 3 goals since being back from injury. Do you think? Well, I've seen some people comment saying that from personal experience and the back injury he suffered, that it does take time to get back to his to get back to your usual self, to actually be as mobile and able to do the things you have to do in normal life, so let alone football. But Suraj, do you think that's the main reason for Rashford's fitness, or do you think that he's just experiencing like a natural drop in form? What do you think is going on there, and how should we solve the problem? Because should he be benched?
Okay, so initially, I think what caused the problem is that Marcus Rashford was literally carrying the team when Pogba was injured and we hadn't signed Bruno, and then essentially in the first half of the season, Rashford carried the team, and subsequently he got injured because of playing too much. So yeah, as you mentioned, back injuries take a toll on your playing career, even after you recover completely. So what we can do about it is, I think for me, this is one of the things that has changed since Solskjaer's come in. earlier, if say Rashford or Martial didn't score in a game, I'd keep worrying. I'd say, oh no, why aren't they scoring in each and every single game? But now I'm far more patient. I know that Solskjaer will take care of them in the sense. Could Rashford ask for a better person to guide him at this point in time? I don't think so. A former Manchester United striker coaching a couple of young Manchester United strikers is pretty much a really good deal that we have at the moment. So I'm really not bothered about his form. It's really frustrating to watch, but I know he'll get over it because we know what he's capable of, and I trust Solskjaer to get it done. If it's a physical issue that's bothering him, then that's something our physios will need to help him out with. But if it's a mental thing, then I'm sure Solskjaer will get the job done for us.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I think it is important that he just needs to sort it out, and he'll be an important player as soon as he can kind of get back into that form. And of course, he's shown his qualities and how much he's improved over the last few years, certainly this year as a left winger.
Yeah, I just have a question to both of you guys. Do you really think that you playing him on the left-hand side is a better position for him than you make him play in the center? Just a thought. It's too hard to drop Martial at that place, but do you think he's a lot better when he's up front than when you put him on the left-hand side?
Sure, you go first.
I think his pace helps him on the left-hand side. That's why he plays there. And in terms of just pure finishing, I think Martial's much better, which is why Rashford's been moved to the left. But I think if Martial, God forbid, he gets injured, then I think Rashford slots in very well. I don't think so. I think Greenwood slots in there because I feel Greenwood's finishing is better than Rashford's. In general, Rashford's decision making bothers me a little bit. So I think for now, left-hand side is better because he has a fixed role, and whereas when you put him in the center, he has to make decisions, and I think that's where he isn't as good.
Well, I think he's improving in that, don't you? I think in the last few games he's actually shown that his distribution on the ball's been a lot better, don't you?
That's about why I said his passing range has improved, like you mentioned, Arjun, and also he's more understanding when there was Luke Shaw behind him. He right now knows exactly when to pass, when to pull the trigger, get other people involved in the game, and that's not a Rashford which we saw under Louis van Gaal nor Mourinho. His overall development is a lot better this season than all the seasons you put together, which he's had under any of these managers.
Yeah, that's totally true. I think the Rashford that we're seeing under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the best that we've seen him since he's broken through into the team.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to see how it is. Obviously, I still really do think it is still just him recovering from his injury. I don't doubt that he'll turn up when he needs to, but I think it's just a matter of time, really. Maybe it won't be in the next couple of games. Maybe it is at the start of the next season. We'll have to see, but I really hope it's sooner rather than later. In the meantime, let's talk about the transfer window, because of course it is open despite United still playing games, and of course the Champions League going on as well. And really it is sort of frustrating because we all thought, there's this deadline, 10th of August. That's the day that Sancho will either stay or go to Dortmund. That day's passed. A couple days already have gone past that and still no news. It still seems that Sancho has agreed the personal terms, but nothing has been set in stone over the fee. I think United is still reluctant to pay the full 108 million even. And I think it is actually Dortmund wanting 90 million, United still off on the valuation by about 5 to 10 million. I think they wanted to pay, either maybe even 75, but maybe it's 80 to 85 is what I've heard. That's not a big difference when you think about the total price would have been 108 anyway. I think it's just the way the add-ons were set up. This is the way Dortmund didn't want it. And then it seems like that deal's off. Sancho obviously played in the first half in their friendly today that just finished a few minutes ago, and he's obviously training with the team, and some of his players have come out and said how happy he is, how happy he's staying. The whatever his name is, the director of football, I think, or the chairman of Dortmund is saying how great he's staying or whatever. But nothing said from the player. It actually seems like he's actually handed a transfer request today, or not exactly a request, but more his agent has come in and said, look, can we try and get this deal done as soon as possible? What I'm now, I say concerned about, what I'm more hedging my bets on, Suraj, is that Manchester United don't sign anyone until after the Europa League campaign. How realistic do you think that is as a suggestion as to where we are and where we are still in our transfer dealings, despite improving with the limiting of Ed Woodward on the actual transfers, on picking the players to buy? That's obviously a positive step, but how far are we away from actually being a good club at doing transfers while he's still at the helm?
That's actually a difficult question to answer. I think what needs to change first is we've got to start working on deals parallelly. Why can't we work on 2-3 deals? We need 3 players. Why does it have to be just get one player and then get another and then get another? Why can't we do it together? Can we do it under Woodward? I'm not sure, because to be fair, I just lost my trust in Woodward, and I think we need someone new, or at least we need a director of football coming in soon. But I think unless that happens, we're going to have some trouble in the transfer window. And one more thing that I don't like about how United deal transfers is, why do we give so many briefs? No, I to be honest, I haven't seen any other club keep informing the media guys about what we're doing every second. So I'd like that to stop, because if there's more speculation, it looks like we've missed out on more players, whereas we probably weren't in for those players in the first place. So I think a lot of small things need to change to make a big difference. And that could be under Woodward. If Woodward makes changes in his dealings and becomes a better, CEO, then I have no problem. But it does frustrate me a lot.
It is difficult. And also the fact is that we're only really, I've seen so many reports, one saying that, of course, Sancho is the only priority for United this summer, and that's the only player we're signing, which is stupid to think that he's the one solution. He's not the one solution. He's another part in the jigsaw puzzle, and we need to find the others. So we need better squad depth, which has been so much more apparent. Maybe that's why Solskjaer made all those changes against LASK, to just highlight the limited ability of the other 11 players that don't play, and we need a bit more quality in that. And certainly when he made a couple changes, or what rather, he didn't make a few changes to the squad against Copenhagen, where he didn't bring on as many subs. No Dan James, obviously. Lingard didn't come on till the very end. Neither did McTominay. Igalo didn't feature. Pereira wasn't. I don't think he was even on the bench. Dalot wasn't on the bench. But I think that's a separate matter. So I'll just ignore that part. But it's just like that. And I think it is just important that we do need those players, and we need them as soon as possible, because we can't have one of those situations where something I've realised over the last sort of few years or few transfer windows. Fernandes was signed on the very last day, and so was Igalo. They only had like a week of training before they were introduced into the team. Maguire had a week of training before he was introduced. He didn't have a single game in pre-season, even though it was the whole of the summer we were talking about signing Maguire. It didn't take till the 5th of August for him to be signed, or maybe even a little bit later. No, it was the 5th of August, because he had 7 days before the Chelsea game. I think Sanchez was signed late in the January. Not that made a difference to his form. It was still bad, but that's not really the point. We should have got the deal over the line. The season before, we didn't sign anyone. We were looking for deadline day signings for the centre-backs and even Perisic as well, and that didn't happen. But some would say that was more of a blessing, but you never know. Pogba was signed late. Martial was signed late. Fellaini and Mata was signed late. It's really sloppy work, because you should expect that. Look at how Chelsea have done it. They agreed the Pulisic deal in January. They had Kovacic on loan and signed him pretty much straight as the transfer window began, even though they had the ban. They've already signed Werner and Ziyech, and are already looking towards another centre back, another centre mid. They're looking for Rice. They're looking for Havertz. They're obviously looking for another goalkeeper, but I don't think they're looking at that too much. Liverpool have already signed a left back, and they're the ones that can't scrounge 30 million for Thiago. And they've still managed to sign another player and look for another one. Arsenal have signed Willian, and Arsenal are the banter club. Now we're becoming the banter club in the transfer window. Maybe not in the league, because we've actually done well, but it's still that point where Woodward is in charge, where we seem to stutter every single transfer window. And Prashant, do you see this changing this window, or do you think it will just be something that will have to happen gradually?
I mean, I agree with Suraj what he said, but I have lost all hopes on Woodward. I mean, I have absolutely no trust that we can get this deal done very quickly. But having said that, now what I would want to speak about is the financial aspect. When I say financial aspect, the proper buying and selling behavior of football clubs. This is not the first time where United are being dragged in such kind of a transfer saga. You've mentioned a whole list of transfers which happened pretty late. But also understand for a fact that the selling club always has an advantage over the buying club. I mean, let's look at the Paul Pogba kind of situation. Yes, he came in late. Juventus raised the bid to 108 or 120 million, and they thought that no one would match it. United went ahead and just matched it, and now Juventus was caught off guard, and hence Mino Raiola broke in and had to broker a deal. Similarly, even for Ronaldo to Real Madrid, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that immortal line from Fergie, I wouldn't sell Real a virus. I wouldn't, like, he got Real a virus. But what happened in the end? Ronaldo had to move on. A selling club can always hold their most prized asset as long as they want. In Sancho's scenario, what has happened here is he's got 24 months in his contract. It's 2 more years, right? So he doesn't even have a release clause. Had he had a release clause, United would have just bought him. I mean, Michael Zorc or Watzke, whoever their director and their CEO is, they would have been blown apart. But now it's a situation where United will have to play alongside Dortmund's terms. But having said that, United are playing hardball as well. United have strictly maintained saying that X amount of money is what I'm going to offer you upfront, rest all our add-ons, etc., etc. Now again, it has gone back to Sancho. How much does he want to leave Dortmund and come back? And I don't know what's wrong with Dortmund and their press, and every 1 hour they tweet something about Sancho in the media. I mean, are you so desperate? Like, I know you would want to keep your most prized asset. I mean, he's one of your brightest prospects. But look at your history, man. I mean, you said that Dembele is not for sale. He was sold in 3 days, 4 days. Aubameyang said, Aubameyang was told, you are our future. We won't sell you. Sold to Arsenal. I mean, you are a banter club. You are just hungry for money. If United come with all the cash bags, we would just blow the whole Dortmund club out. But when you mentioned that Ed Woodward and his decision making in terms of doing transfers very quickly, I don't see this happening very early. This is, for me, this whole transfer saga is as good as Wesley Sneijder from Inter to Man United. Quite possible that we might not even sign Sancho at the end of the window, because if Dortmund decides saying that, if you don't pay me 120 million, I'm not letting him go. I would rather keep him for a year more, all right, and then sell it to whoever is the highest bidder. This is our best, and even Dortmund understands, this is our best chance to sign Jadon Sancho. Not a lot of big clubs are available right now in the market who can actually come in and offer a better project than us. Think about this situation. A year later, someone like, let's say, a Barcelona or a Real Madrid come across and speak to Jadon Sancho's entourage. That time money can't save you. Right now you have the money. You can go out, buy the player, do whatever you want. But next year when a Real Madrid or, Dortmund's favorite Bayern Munich comes in, Sancho will look at them and say, you know what, I rather be a part of a project which will guarantee me the league as well as a fair shot at the Champions League. rather than go to Man United, be a part of exciting project, take 3-4 years for rebuild, and then come back. Now that's a situation which I want to avoid. Doubts creeping in mind of a certain player like Jadon Sancho, where obviously he'll have a better project than when you look at Man United. So that's one situation which I'm very scared of, and I don't want United playing extra hardball here and then missing out Jadon Sancho completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously it sort of almost reminds me of the Fernandes thing where they said, "Oh, we're going to go and get Fernandes," but we've got alternate options. We've got Paulo Dybala and Christian Eriksen.
You really believe Paulo Dybala would leave Juventus to come to Man United?
Yeah,
I never fell for that.
Yeah, but well, obviously, I think there are some sort of media tactics going on at the moment. I think we don't really know anything. There are very few trusted sources. I think Fabrizio Romano is one of them, one of the very few. And I think, honestly, I'm not really confident on anything until I see that here we go and see Sancho with the red shirt on. And I think that's pretty much it. But we should entertain the possibility that he might not sign. And of course, we've just had our poll on Twitter as to what topics we should bring up, and it is going to be alternative Sancho replacements. I think a whopping 40% decided that that was going to be our topic. So let's do it now. Suraj, who's a better option? We've seen the likes of Dembele, we've seen the likes of Kingsley Coman, and also Douglas Costa more recently suggested as an alternate for Jadon Sancho. I've got my own idea, maybe Ismail Assar, but obviously it's a bit more untested. Certainly is not going to just go straight into the squad. Who would you pick to, if God forbid we do have to find someone else instead of Jadon Sancho, who would you go for, Suraj?
Well, one of the worst things that could happen to us in this transfer window is that Dortmund and United just play hardball till the end of the transfer window, and on October 13th, Woodward realizes that Man United fans are going to start trending Glazer out all over Twitter again. He goes and puts in the money and gets Sancho, and we look like a mug because we signed only one player the entire transfer window. So I feel that we should make a decision in the next few days. Are we going to get him? Yes or no? If no, just stop it and go for other options. And I think alternatives to Jadon Sancho have gone a different route. I'm going to say that leave the right wing position for now. Get another centre back, maybe get Gabriel or get Torres, and go for a defensive midfielder. I would say Rice, but I recently heard that West Ham rubbished a rumor saying that they rejected a £65 million bid from Chelsea and said we wouldn't even sell him at that price. And I think that's crazy. Why wouldn't they sell Rice for 65 million?
Because they have the chosen one.
So. Yeah, probably. Probably go and get Grealish and a centre back, and that almost immediately improves our depth. Then I'd go and look for a striker, probably a proven one because Igalo leaves in January. I was really excited by the Jimenez rumors, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Sorry to cut you off. We've just had an article that just come out on the 5 potential signings about Igalo, and the other ones were Edouard from Celtic, Moussa Dembele, Josh King, and Ollie Watkins, of course, as well. So would any of those be ones you'd prefer, or would they be kind of a bit too inexperienced?
I think they are a bit inexperienced. Maybe I'd go for someone like Moussa Dembele over there. But so I'd look to improve the depth and maybe get Sancho in next year. But like Prashant said, next year we're going to have far more competition. And another worst case scenario is if Chelsea join the race, then it's pretty much over for us because it's a London club and it's his boyhood club, and he's not going to choose us in that case. So I think we have to get him in the next couple of weeks. If we don't get the here we go in the next 10-15 days, then just stop it and go for a centre back, a defensive mid, and maybe a left back.
Yeah, so you're saying that if the option is that we don't get Sancho, just stop for now, pause, get the rest of the squad depth sorted, and then see what we can do later. You don't think we should just
definitely.
You don't think we should just nail down that position of right wing? We should just wait and see later on in the window, and then just revisit it then.
So the thing with the Sancho deal is why I really want Sancho to United is in the next 2 years he's going to be the best right winger in the world, hands down. And I want to get him early, and I want us to have the best players in each position. So Pogba is one of the best in the world in his position. I see Martial and Rashford, okay, not best in the world, but really I see them as one of the top players maybe in the future. And if we have another potential world-class player like Jadon Sancho, that's going to be so good. So I don't want to settle for someone like a Douglas Costa, because that, for me, that seems like one step back. I want to go in and get someone who is definitely going to be the best in their position.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you mentioned centre backs, and obviously let's talk about that as another. It was another actual suggestion for the podcast from one of the voters, obviously, and it was suggested. Obviously, you said Gabriel. I think he's the one that's been linked the most. Obviously, we were linked with Ake before he signed for City. And I think the £41 million they were asking for was probably too extortionate for United. So I see that being a reasonable choice to leave that one. But it's obviously Pau Torres as well has been linked, and of course we've also just put out an article on Malang Sarr, a youngster, 21 years old, left-footed centre back who's just been released by Nice because he refused to sign a new contract because he wanted to play Champions League football, and they couldn't offer that with where they were, and so he did leave Malang Sarr, and he's obviously been linked with I think AC Milan and Inter Milan, but I think Manchester United would do well with him. But Prashant, who would you say? Would you say that Gabriel is the one that we should be going for, or should we be going for someone with more experience?
I would personally, not go for Malang Sarr or Gabriel for that matter of fact. Apart from United, one club I really watch a lot of games is AC Milan. So one player for whom I've always been a big fan is Alessio Romangoli. Alessio Romangoli is an Italy international, and he's been in Milan since 2015. He's ex-AS Roma, and then he moved to Sampdoria for loan for a year, and then moved to AC Milan for a 5-year contract worth 20-odd million. And he's a left-footed centre-back. One reason why I like Alessio Romangoli is for a fact that, he's a no-nonsense kind of a defender. And he's very gifted when it comes to distribution of the ball, very technically good, confident in possession. His ability to move around the ball is he picks out correct players at the correct time. Let's all face it that United are not one of the best teams in the world when we have to build it from the back. I mean, it scares the daylight out of me when we start building out from back, because it's someone else tries and presses us at that point of time. It's one-on-one versus David De Gea, and off late I have lost that trust as well. So I would definitely like someone like an Alessio Romangoli, because more than a left-footed centre back, I like someone who's very confident and who's very comfortable, and he knows what he's up to. That's such a rare quality in someone who plays at the defense, and he's only 25. I don't want someone extremely young, like 18, 19-year-old, and then say that we should give him a year or two more to adjust and whatever the natural excuses which you associate with. That's for someone if you're targeting outside the Premier League. In the Premier League, there was one player who is really, really impressed me. Not exactly a centre-back, but he played centre-back for Norwich, which is Ben Godfrey. He's 22 years old. Extremely good on the ball. Smart defender. Someone who, he'll not let you bully. That's such a rare quality for centre-backs off late, because off late we see centre-backs falling and then crying and then raising their hands for a foul. This is old-fashioned English defender. someone of the mold of Terry Butcher kind of a guy where, they just are ready to defend. There is something beautiful about defending for them. So they are my two options. Apart from that, if I have to go the European route, like you said, of course, there is Pau Torres, who's been brilliant for Villarreal this season. So I was just going through some of the stats last week. So he's had more successful passes than third most successful passes after Gerard Piqué and Sergio Ramos. I mean, and you play for a team like Villarreal, which is not the best when you compare to the La Liga teams like Barca and Madrid. That's one interesting option which we have. And apart from United, even Chelsea were linked to him, but then Chelsea have decided to move on to other players. If just for banter, if I would want to, try and see if we can sign one player, I would really sign as David Alaba of Bayern Munich. His contract is a bit of dicey with Bayern. He's not very comfortable, converting a new deal for Bayern Munich. And one good reason why I would sign him is he's also a good left back. So, if we ever play him as a left back, I'm sure he's much better than Luke Shaw over a period of time. He's also a very smart left-sided centre back, because usually if you observe his passing range, it's more towards the left-hand wing, from left-hand centre back to the left side of the wing, because he's very smart in movement. So that's like, these are 3-4 of my options which I would definitely be interested to sign. And not that any of them are old, because David Alaba is just 28 years. I mean, it's not too old for a defender to sign. I'm not a huge fan of Kalidou Koulibaly, because he's one very average season this year. But I mean, I was never impressed whenever I saw Napoli play. I mean, I just found out that he's usually late in reading the game, and hence he had to make a lot of last-ditch tackles, which of course are very clean. But game reading is not one of his best assets. And in Premier League, you can't have someone who does not read the game very quickly, because it's all about pace in this league.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I obviously think that Koulibaly's not going to be one that we're going to be looking at. I think Manchester City are looking at him. I'm not sure he's suited to them, but we'll see how things turn out for them. I do think Alaba's a great shout, actually. I do think he'd be perfect for United. I'm not sure whether United do see him. I think he'd complement Maguire well. He's got that yard of pace. He's not the most aerially dominant, but he's very, very smart on the ball, really intelligent player. And I didn't know he was 28. I thought he was about 31. So actually, obviously that's not that big a difference. But in the grand scheme of things, a 5-year deal for Alaba wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Yeah,
and also last year of contract. I mean, there is no news.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no news regarding he's ready to. Yeah, exactly. And there's no news regarding when he's going to, kind of renew. So, like I said, it can just be for banter. So. You can just try and nick another player from Bayern Munich, because our dealings with them have not been the great. We signed Owen Hargreaves, we signed Bastian, and probably David Alaba, if we ever get it. So yeah, that's why.
Of course, we also missed out on Toni Kroos, Thomas Muller. Who else? How many others? Jerome Boateng. You can keep naming them, but I think they're very good options. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on. We've gone on long. We'll just quickly go on to the point that it does seem clear that Pogba is willing to do crunch contract talks after the Europa League. And I think I think we can't really overstate or go on for too much about how important Pogba is. But I think it's important that has actually been more open. And I think he was teasing us yesterday with that soon announcement on Twitter. But I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's absolutely. I think he's more committed to United than ever. And I think you can see that in his gameplay and how happy he is in training. We'll have to see, and he's actually said it himself, which is something we can't say for Sancho, but something we can say for Pogba, that he said he's happy at United. He's just feeling really much more passionate, and he's enjoying playing and watching United play. So, I mean, hopefully that those contract talks are promising and positive, and we get that deal done as soon as possible. I think that's all that really needs to be said. But we'll move on. We'll just move straight on to the Sevilla game. Of course, Sevilla 5 times champions, like we said earlier. They go in after winning against Wolves 1-0 in the 85th minute. Ocampos scoring that goal. There could have actually been a goal behind had Jimenez scored his penalty, and that could have been a tough night for Sevilla. But they got through in the end. It was a late one, so they did have to fight for the win. It was certainly not an easy game for either side. And obviously, United do have that extra day, albeit plus an extra 30 minutes of extra time, but pretty much a day extra to them as they play on Sunday. Suraj, we obviously, like we said, I mean, we played against Sevilla in 2 years ago in the Champions League. We got knocked out at Old Trafford. There's no second chances this time. Prashant actually said before we started that there are 9 changes to that Sevilla side that did win 2-0. Of course, I think both strikers are no longer there. I can't remember one of them, but I know the other one was Ben Yedder, who is actually at Monaco at the moment and causing problems both in real life and online. He's it's a massive change from the side. I think only Ava Benega's left, and I don't know the other player, but definitely Ava Benega. How important is it to exercise the demons that United have against Sevilla, and especially against Spanish clubs in general?
Well, I think Sevilla is going to be a really difficult game because they rely very, at least from what I've seen from them against Roma and against Wolves, that they rely heavily on crosses, and their wide play is really good. Like Ocampos and Suso were constantly tormenting the fullbacks in both the games, and I think that might be a weakness for us because Brandon Williams is still raw, and I think Ocampos will look to completely destroy him on that wing. And I think Reguilon is brilliant, and he's really, really good. And Real Madrid have a really good player on their hands. And despite being a fullback, he is pretty much involved in all of their attacks. So that's another place we need to look at. We've got to be really confident when the ball is aerially in front of our box, because that's where the ball is going to be most of the time when Sevilla are attacking, because they do. I think even against Wolves, they scored from a header which came in through a cross. So I think we need to be really strong in those positions. But one thing I would like to note is that Roma were significantly weakened because Smalling left them, and Smalling was one of their main players. And Wolves, I think, after missing the penalty, they just dropped and they rolled over for Sevilla, and they barely put up a fight after that. So I think if we dominate them right before a defensive third, and if Matic puts in a brilliant defensive shift, and if Pogba also steps up defensively, then we can really stop them before they can even get into crossing positions. So that's something we need to really look at.
Yeah. Well, that's something that was actually highlighted, I think, against Everton in that 1-1 draw at Goodison Park. That I think the fact is that before then, in the game where we lost 4-0, the crosses coming in were causing problems, and United weren't dealing with them. And then when Maguire's obviously come in, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof sort of stepped up, and even when Bailly comes in, we're much more aerially dominant. We've obviously stopped the problems with the set pieces. I think the zonal marking's finally starting to improve a little bit. I think from the other side of things, Sevilla obviously have a lot of height and a lot of strength, like you've said, and we're struggling to actually score set pieces, which is something we do need to work on quite soon, because we're getting a lot of corners and we're just not taking the chances. But I think it is important. I think it is also sort of, that is a very good point, that the right-hand side, obviously, Ocampos, and I think it's Jesus Navas at right back, who's obviously converted from the winger he was at City. And I think that's something that they're going to use, because obviously his attacking abilities are exceptional and he has the pace to get back and stop counterattacks. Benega's obviously a very good quality player and is very experienced and has won this trophy with Sevilla numerous times. So it's going to be a tough one. Prashant, I'll ask you, do you think we should set up in a back 4 or a back 5?
We should go with a back 4. not for a back five, because Sevilla play a 4-3-3 on paper, but they go for more like a 3-4-3 when they have a possession. Like
Right.
Suraj mentioned, Reguilon is excellent. I mean, I was scared that when he was rumored that he was supposed to go to Chelsea,
Yeah.
because like Sergio Reguilon is excellent when it comes to crossing and like proper crosses which goes directly to the striker. And very few people know that he's a Real Madrid player who's on loan from Real Madrid to Sevilla. Real Madrid signed him in 2018, I think, and he's on loan there. He was part of the youth as well, and he's on loan to Sevilla, and he's been exceptional. But Real Madrid are looking to sell him because they think that he can offer much more value in terms of this sale. That's one player which I'm very scared of. Second player is their centre back, which is Kunde. His name is Sergio Kunde. His name is Kunde. Jules Kunde, yeah. So he's a French centre back, and I don't know if you have seen the match with Wolves. The man looked comfortable, like it was as if that, yeah, fine, it's just one of those games, and he's very comfortable in terms of defending. So two of these players are people who are experienced when it comes for a 3-4-3 kind of a game. And like you rightly mentioned, Jesus Navas, his pace is still annoying. I mean, I remember the game against Man City where, David Dea had to come and make a great save. That man's pace has still not left him to a certain extent. But Sevilla's biggest problem is a certain lack of movement when, when you have a very stable game. I think it's just how they are set up. When they don't find entertainment in the game, they're pretty bored. So there's a lot of spaces for us to exploit. Now, if we go for a back five, what happens for us is that we would have to play someone like Lindelof and Eric Bailly and Harry Maguire as a part of back three. I am not very confident of playing Lindelof against the pace of their wingers. We all know that Harry Maguire anyway struggles with pace. And to add Lindelof as well, then it becomes a bit of a scary situation. I would still go for a back four. I would not change any of our tactics. The only tactic or only addition which I would want to see in that game is drop Fred, bring on Nemanja Matic. I mean, I can't see Fred in that role, and then people blame him that he's a waste. He's not the player what we saw in the first half, etc., etc. I rather have Nemanja Matic. Let's play with 4-3-3. Although Sevilla are like the Real Madrid of the Europa League, it's a game of pretty balanced situation. I mean, both Sevilla and us are coming from a similar run. Sevilla finished fourth in La Liga. We finished third. They haven't lost 19 games. Like that's 19 games unbeaten. Almost scored 29, 12 goals conceded, 11 clean sheets. While United one loss in 24 games, as Ole said, right? 1 and 23 is also too much. So, but we have scored much more than Sevilla. We've scored 57 goals. That's because of a front three, which has been lethal. Also, compared to Sevilla, we've had a bit of an easier run. I mean, they faced Roma, Cluj, etc. And also, it's a similar situation for the managers as well. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is expected to rebuild this Man United squad, and so is Lopetegui, because he was sacked from Spain, then got to Real Madrid. Real Madrid do what they usually do the best: sack the managers if the results don't come out. He's gone back to Sevilla, playing a brand new kind of football, which is not seen from Lopetegui for often. Because he's more of a very counter-attacking kind of a manager rather than a possession-based system, while this Sevilla are like a lot more possession-based, lot more patient. And I don't know if ever Benega is aging or whatever. I mean, whenever we have faced Sevilla, he's always been there. And he's still 32 years apparently. I don't know, when is he going to age? So like you were saying that, there were like only two players are there who played from that Man United victory. One is Sergio Escudero, who is their left back, who's still part of the squad. The second player is, I think, Franco Vasquez. He's still there. He's part of the bench, but he's not moved on. One important player who's made the move is Luis Muriel, who plays for Atlanta now. I mean, he moved last year. So, yeah, I mean, Sevilla and United are both in similar territory. It's a game of events. It's not going to be like a pushover kind of a game, or, one of those games where United are expected to come all guns out blazing. I think it's good also because the favorites are Sevilla, which lifts off a lot of pressure on United. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of course, you're right. Yeah, it was Muriel that did start that game where we lost at Old Trafford, and Banega was also starting, and Escudero did too. Lot of changes, obviously, like you've said, like Sarabia going to PSG, Muriel going to Atlanta, Longley is actually at Barcelona now, and of course Ben Yedder. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Steven Nzonzi, I think, has gone to Galatasaray, if I'm not wrong.
I thought it was Nice.
Just let me check. Yeah, Steven Nzonzi left Sevilla for Roma to Galatasaray. Now he's at Rennes.
Rennes. Apologies. Yeah, and of course Ben Yedder is still haunting Liga in Monaco. But yeah, like you said, I think it's important that United don't sort of sit in. I think you're right. I think the back five is probably a little bit too cautious, maybe. And I think if United play their game, I do agree with the Matic substitution. I think we're going to need that composure. I think Fred's just going to be a bit sloppy. And I think when I saw them play against Wolves, I think the high press at times, when they pressed well, it did cause problems. And I can see Fred sort of losing his focus. It's whether they play Ocampos on the right or the left, which I think will be important, because Suso obviously started against Wolves, and I think he played on the right, and Ocampos played on the left. And if he plays on the left, I think Wan-Bissaka will be okay dealing with him, but I think Williams has the pace to deal with Suso, but maybe not the technical ability. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Let's talk about the overall lineup. You've said you only want to make one change, Prashant, to Matic for Fred. Suraj, would you agree with that, or would you stick with Lindelof and Maguire?
No. I think Prashant made a good point. Like, we can't have two slow centre backs, so I think Lindelof can't play, and I'd just get Matic back instead of Fred, because Fred was an eyesore. So, yeah, I mean, there was like an online debate if Fred played really well, and then people say he didn't. But then United's biggest problem is transitioning from defense to midfield, and that's where Pogba or Matic comes in, and Fred was so bad against Copenhagen that day.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go for predictions then. Prashant, just how do you think United are going to play, and B, what do you think the scoreline is going to be?
So United, I think, should stick to what they're best at, which is play on the counters. Go for a proper 4-3-3. I wouldn't want to have a number 10. I mean, a lot of fans are saying that Juan Mata should get a start in this game. Let Bruno and Mata play and drop Greenwood. I mean, I don't even want to entertain that kind of a thought in my head. I would definitely want Mason Greenwood to start. So the same lineup, no doubt about it. But I would want United to play a lot more quicker than what they possibly played against LASK or Copenhagen, or even Leicester for that matter of fact. I would want United to come out and play as if how we played Man City at Old Trafford. I mean, we didn't let City even breathe. I would want to do the same to Sevilla, because once Sevilla settles in, then we are chasing the game. And I don't want United to chase the game at all. Let's stick to what is best with us, which is tried and tested 4-3-3. And I do see the game going to extra time. I don't see 90 minutes will have a clear winner. And I would expect United to win with a 2-0 margin. I don't expect Sevilla to score against us, because we would play compact. 101% we are going to play compact. Sevilla can only score against us if Harry Maguire does a Rafael Varane. I mean, that's all.
Sorry, so you're predicting what result?
I'm predicting a United victory 2-0.
2-0, thank you. Suraj, would you say the same?
No, I'm going for a 1-0 Bruno Fernandes penalty.
I could say 10 penalties in the game, but I don't think that's going to be quite the same. Obviously, I think our pace is good. I mean, we saw what happened with Traore yesterday. His run just scything through the Sevilla team on the counter, and he won that penalty from Diego Carlos, who's supposed to have a yard of pace on him himself, but he just could not deal with him. And I think we can see something similar from Martial maybe on the counter, because I think he's been fantastic the last couple games. Actually, pretty much all season he's been playing. I mean, there's maybe been a couple dips in form, but I think he's been one of the most consistent players United have had this season. I think he's going to be the difference for us, and I can see him scoring maybe I'm not sure about a clean sheet, but I'm going to be positive and say it'll be 1-0 for about till probably the 85th minute, and then we get a second goal. Possibly a penalty, we'll have to see. But I do think United should win. I'm always expecting United to win, and I think they will today. In the next game. And, of course, they will either play Inter or Shakhtar Donetsk in the final, which will be taking place on the 21st of August. And we've got a long time to wait until then. But I'm afraid that's all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you to both Suraj and Prashant for joining me. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Suraj.
Thanks, bro.
No problem. If you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss, please comment below on the YouTube video or on the poll we will be doing next week, as we've done earlier today. And we will answer your questions throughout the podcast and give you a shout out as the podcast is published. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for all of our content.